In the early 1980s, Dana Plato looked like the safest kind of young star. She had the smile, the timing, the easy warmth that made audiences relax. On Different Strokes, she played Kimberly Drummond, the dependable older sister inside a sitcom that sat in millions of living rooms every week. People watched her grow up and assumed that meant she was protected. The image held, then broke. On May 8, 1999, Plato was found dead in Moore, Oklahoma, inside a motorhome parked outside her fiancé's family home. Police initially said the death looked like an accidental overdose. Days later, the story hardened into a different headline. The Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office ruled the death. That gap between the girl America trusted and the woman America turned into a warning label is the real story. It is not one twist. It is a chain that starts with a childhood spent working and ends with an adult life shaped by addiction and public ridicule, even as she kept insisting she was getting better. Dana Michelle Strain was born on November 7, 1964 in Huntington Park, California. Her birth mother, Linda Strain, was a teenager already raising another baby. When Dana was 7 months old, in June 1965, she was adopted by Dean Plato and his wife Florine K. Plato. Dean owned a trucking company. Kay became the center of Dana's life. The marriage did not last. When Dana was 3, the Platos divorced, and she lived with Kay in the San Fernando Valley. The rhythm of their household revolved around auditions, headshots, and the quiet pressure of keeping momentum. Dana later said she had been taken to auditions since she was in diapers. Whether she remembered the earliest ones or not, the pattern shaped her. Strangers assessed her face, her voice, her body, and adults decided what that meant. By childhood standards, her resume was already crowded. She did many commercials and became comfortable under lights before most kids learn what a cue even is. At the same time, she trained seriously in figure skating. Skating gave her a second identity, one that required focus instead of approval. She practiced with the kind of intensity that makes Olympic talk feel possible, and for a while it looked like she could have built a life around ice rather than cameras. Acting kept winning the schedule battle. In 1975, she made a brief appearance on The $6 Million Man. A couple of years later, she appeared in Return to Boggy Creek. In 1978, she had a part in Neil Simon's California Suite. None of those jobs made her famous. She was considered for a major role in The Exorcist, and her mother declined to let her take it. They did something subtler. They made it normal for her to be working. In 1978, she appeared briefly on The Gong Show. Around that time, she auditioned for a new NBC sitcom. The show was called Different Strokes, and it was built around a big cultural premise. A wealthy white widower adopts 2 black brothers from Harlem after their mother dies. For late 1970s network television, that setup was both mainstream and loaded. The show could be warm and funny, then pivot into issue episode stories about drugs and exploitation. That mix helped it stand out, and it also put the kids in scenes written to carry adult meaning. They had to be cute and credible, then turn around and sell danger without flinching. Dana got the role of Kimberly, the widower's daughter. She was 14 when the show premiered, but she walked onto that set with the habits of a working adult and the life experience of a kid who had spent most of her time around adults. Fame was about to turn that imbalance into her normal. The job also meant learning how to read a room early. Sets reward kids who stay calm, hit marks, and don't slow production. That skill looks like maturity, but it can also train a child to ignore discomfort and keep performing through it. Different Strokes premiered in November 1978 and became an immediate hit. The show's best-known face quickly became Gary Coleman as Arnold, but Dana's presence mattered in a different way. Kimberly was the bridge. She made the blended family believable because she treated it as a family, not a social experiment. That is why audiences trusted her. The trust followed Dana off-screen. Fan mail came constantly. Teen magazines treated her like a friend viewers already knew. She received multiple Young Artist Award nominations across her early career. Her face was everywhere a young viewer might look. And once your face becomes part of the culture, privacy stops being a right. it becomes something you have to steal back. On set, teachers rotated in and out, and school became something she did between takes. That arrangement kept the show running, but it also kept real friendships thin. Adults praised her for being easy, meaning quiet, compliant, and ready. When you are rewarded for never causing trouble, you learn to hide trouble from everyone. Different Strokes ran for 8 seasons, from 1978 to 1986. It spent most of its life on NBC, then moved to ABC for its final season. Success was big enough that the show spun out other series, including The Facts of Life, which started as a Different Strokes episode before becoming its own hit, and Hello, Larry, another short-lived spin-off. The brand kept expanding, while the young actors inside it were still kids learning in public. The series also built its reputation on issue episodes, storylines that dipped into topics many sitcoms avoided. For viewers, that gave the show an emotional edge. For the cast, it meant playing heavy material while still living the chaotic life of child performers. It is hard to separate the work from the environment when the work requires a teenager to act like an adult in stories meant to teach adults and kids what good choices look like. While the public saw Sweetheart, Dana was already struggling. In later interviews, she said she started drinking young and got pulled into substances while the show was still running. She also spoke about a serious incident as a teenager that alarmed the people around her and showed how early things were slipping. That places the beginning of her crisis during the fame years, not after the spotlight faded. The set itself could not create addiction, but it created conditions where addiction could hide. Long hours blur boundaries. Fame makes adults treat teenagers like coworkers. Money arrives before maturity. A young performer learns quickly that the job is to show up and deliver, even when you are falling apart. When the camera is rolling, pain has to wait. Dana could deliver. She played Kimberly as calm, practical, even maternal at times. Those are adult qualities. For a teenage actress, performing them week after week can start to feel like being trapped inside someone else's expectations. Viewers kept telling her who she was. The industry built her market value around that version. There was very little room for who she actually felt like off camera. In the early 1980s, Dana moved in with her boyfriend, rock guitarist Lanny Lambert, and the relationship accelerated quickly. They married soon after, and she became a mother while she was still very young. Around the same time, she was written out of Different Strokes once her pregnancy became known. Kimberly was sent to Paris, a clean exit that kept the sitcom's world tidy. Dana returned for a later guest appearance, but her run as a main cast member was over. The show continued without her. Leaving the series also changed her daily structure overnight. The routine that had organized her life, call times, scripts, a steady paycheck, familiar faces, vanished. For someone who had grown up on sets, that kind of sudden empty space could feel like free fall. A few years earlier, the series had made her a teen idol. Now she was a young woman with a baby, and Hollywood treated her like she had aged out of her own career. Casting directors still saw Kimberly. Producers did not offer the kinds of parts that help a former child star build adult credibility. The sitcom that had given her visibility also branded her in a way that made reinvention harder than people assume. One of the few adult voices who spoke about her from that era was Conrad Bain, the actor who played Philip Drummond. Bain said Dana was excited about her baby and told him she would never be alone again once she had her child. It is a hopeful line, and it also sounds like someone who had been surrounded by people and still felt isolated. Motherhood did not fix what fame had already complicated. Addiction does not respect life milestones. It only uses them as cover. Dana tried to keep going, but the career ladder she had climbed as a teenager had missing rungs for someone like her. By January 1988, Dana's marriage was breaking. She separated from Lambert that month. The same week, her mother Kay died of scleroderma. Whatever their relationship had been, Kay had been the architect of Dana's life. When she died, Dana lost the person who had handled the logistics and protected the brand, even when that protection came with control. Money trouble followed close behind. In desperation, Dana signed over power of attorney to an accountant. Later, she said most of her money disappeared and she was left with a fraction of what she believed she had earned. The specifics of what happened in her accounts became part of her larger story. A young woman who had earned real money on network television, then somehow found herself broke, working regular jobs and being laughed at for it. In March 1990, the divorce was finalized. Dana lost custody of Tyler to Lambert and was given visitation rights. That loss is easy to summarize and hard to live with. It meant the one relationship that could have anchored her was now structured by court terms and trust that had been broken. After the divorce, she bounced between attempts at treatment and stretches of relapse, the kind that don't make headlines until they explode. Work offers came with conditions: show up clean, stay quiet, don't embarrass production. Agents stopped calling back. Friends described days when she sounded determined, then vanished for weeks, unreachable and ashamed again. This is the point where a lot of biographies start treating Dana like an example. The trouble with that approach is that it turns her into a lesson instead of a person. The facts are simple. A former teen star entered her 20s with addiction, grief, unstable finances, and a shrinking career. Nothing about that combination leads to steady choices. Dana tried to peel away the Kimberly label. In the late 1980s, she posed for Playboy. A public line in the sand meant to make one thing clear: she was grown, and she wanted to be seen as more than a sitcom good girl. The attention came fast. The career shift didn't. Hollywood still treated her as a familiar face with a complicated headline trail. A pictorial can change how people talk about you, but it can also lock you into a different box. After that, a lot of the work available to her lived on the fringes. Low-budget films and projects that leaned heavily on her notoriety instead of her range. Through the 1990s, she appeared in a string of small movies, sometimes as the lead, sometimes as a name meant to sell the cover. A few roles leaned into adult material, which reflected the kind of offers that kept landing in her lap once mainstream doors stopped opening. It kept her working, but it also made it harder for the public to separate Dana the actress from Dana the cautionary headline. One of the strangest turns was Night Trap, a live-action video game that later got dragged into political hearings about violence and sexual material in games. Clips from it played well on television because they looked alarming out of context, even though the game's premise was that the player was trying to protect the characters. That controversy helped push the industry toward a standardized rating system, which became part of gaming history. The irony is that the controversy gave the game a larger footprint than it would have earned on its own. For Dana, it meant her name stayed attached to cultural arguments instead of acting craft. Public attention kept finding her, just rarely in a way that helped her move forward. Dana kept looking for spaces where acting still felt like acting. Theater gave her that in a way film and television weren't offering anymore. People who worked with her in those years said she could be sharp and committed when she was steady, and that side of her never fully disappeared. She also recorded music at one point, and plans were discussed, but nothing solid came of it. More and more, the work she could get was direct-to-video, late-night cable, or projects designed to trade on the contrast between Kimberly Drummond and the woman Dana had become. The pattern stayed brutal. Her past was always in the room, even when the script didn't mention it. By the end of the decade, she even appeared in projects that played directly into her public story, work where the idea of Dana Plato was part of the selling point, whether she wanted that or not. Dana's life in Las Vegas was far from the sitcom fantasy people still projected onto her. At one point, she worked as a cashier at a dry cleaning store. Customers recognized her and were surprised by how ordinary her job was. Fame is treated like permanent status. It never is. On February 28, 1991, Dana walked into a Las Vegas video store with a pellet gun and demanded money from the register. She left with $164. The clerk recognized her immediately and told police the robber was the actress who played Kimberly on Different Strokes. Not long after, Dana returned to the store, and police arrested her. Wayne Newton posted the $13,000 bail that allowed her to get out. In court, she pleaded guilty. She received probation rather than prison time, but the damage was done. The robbery became her headline. It framed every later opportunity as a risk. Local media in Las Vegas treated the story like entertainment. Radio hosts joked about it. Newspapers ran the mugshot. Every rerun of Different Strokes became a before and after comparison that strangers felt entitled to make out loud. For Dana, that kind of ridicule is not a background detail. Shame is fuel for addiction. It pushes people back toward numbness, then punishes them for using it. The probation terms kept her in the system. One slip could become jail. The 1992 prescription forgery arrest did exactly that. And it also branded her as someone who could not be trusted with controlled medication, even when she genuinely needed it. In January 1992, she was arrested again for forging a prescription for diazepam. The violation led to 30 days in jail and then a court-ordered rehabilitation program. After that, the cycle tightened fast. Probation, arrest, jail, rehab, and headlines that followed her everywhere. The robbery was not big crime in the way people imagine crime. It was small and desperate and public. That is why it stuck. It looked like a former star hitting bottom in front of the world. It let people feel superior while watching someone they used to admire. Dana kept trying to build stability. She became engaged to filmmaker Fred Potts at one point, and that relationship ended. She later married actor and producer Scott Adkins in Vancouver, and the marriage was annulled after about a month. Short relationships can be a sign of chaos, but they can also be a sign of someone trying to find a place to land and realizing too late it is the wrong ground. She eventually became engaged to her manager, Robert Menchaca. The two lived in a Winnebago motorhome in Navarre, Florida. The image is stark. A woman once attached to one of the most watched sitcoms in America, living on the road, chasing work, trying to keep her life small enough to manage. Living on the road also meant living without a fixed support net. When a bill arrived, it followed them. When a rumor arrived, it traveled faster. Menchaca booked appearances, but doors closed when people heard her name. She carried old clippings like proof she had once mattered, then hated herself for still needing them. Her contact with Tyler remained limited. He lived primarily with his father. Dana's role was scheduled and conditional. That kind of motherhood carries its own private grief, and it is easy to imagine how it fed the loneliness that followed her. She still believed a comeback was possible. That belief can sound naive, but it is also the only thing that keeps a person moving when the world has decided your story is finished. On May 7th, 1999, Dana appeared on The Howard Stern Show. It was not a gentle setting. The show thrived on confrontation, and Dana's reputation made her easy bait. She talked about her financial problems and her past arrests. She described herself as a recovering addict and claimed she had been sober for more than 10 years. She also said she had recently had her wisdom teeth extracted and was taking prescribed pain medication. Listeners called in and attacked her. Some mocked her living situation. Others questioned her sobriety. Dana pushed back, sometimes sharply, sometimes with the shaky energy of someone trying to hold a line while being shoved. The exchange could feel cruel because the humiliation was the point. Still, Dana kept returning to the same idea. She was trying to rebuild. She wanted to work again. She wanted people to believe she could be more than her mugshot. It was the last time the public heard her voice. On May 8, 1999, Dana and Menchaca traveled through Moore, Oklahoma for a Mother's Day visit to his family. Dana said she felt unwell. She lay down inside the motor home parked outside the house. Later, she was found unresponsive. Emergency responders could not revive her. She was 34. Police initially described the death as an accidental overdose, with early reports saying she had taken prescription medication, including a painkiller and Valium. The next day, a Moore police spokesman told reporters the department did not suspect and that it looked accidental. Given Dana's history with addiction and the fact that she had recently had dental work, that explanation landed easily with the public. Less than 2 weeks later, the Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office ruled her death, citing toxicology findings and her documented history. The ruling narrowed how the story was told, turning a complicated, private moment into a single label that followed her name. The people closest to Dana pointed to what she was doing right before that trip. She was trying to work again, heading back toward California, still talking. Like a comeback was possible even after a hostile radio appearance. Todd Bridges publicly rejected the idea that she set out to die, saying she took medication to sleep and the amount became fatal. That disagreement is part of why her death has never felt settled to everyone who knew her. Dana was cremated, and her ashes were scattered over the Pacific Ocean. A woman who spent her life being watched ended with no grave for the public to gather around. After Dana's death, her story became part of a larger conversation about child stars. In 2000, Fox aired After Different Strokes. When the laughter stopped, a TV movie focused on the post-show struggles of Plato, Gary Coleman, and Todd Bridges. In 2006, NBC aired Behind the Camera, the unauthorized story of Different Strokes, another dramatization of the series' young stars. Their lives became content, even after their careers had stopped being treated as legitimate. For people who watched the sitcom in real time, Dana's name became shorthand. For people who came later, she became part of a myth about a curse. The curse idea is convenient. It avoids responsibility. It lets audiences treat tragedy as fate instead of consequence. The consequences were real, and they did not stop with Dana. Tyler Lambert was 14 when his mother died. As an adult, he struggled with addiction and depression. Friends and family members said Mother's Day was especially hard for him, and the anniversary of Dana's death hit like a trigger he could not shut off. On May 6, 2010, 2 days before the 11th anniversary of Dana's death, Tyler died by suicide. He was 25. The Tulsa, Oklahoma office of the chief medical examiner confirmed he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The echo is painful. 14 years old was the age Dana overdosed, the age she became a national teen idol, the age Tyler was when she died. It is the age that keeps returning like a bruise you do not stop pressing. Dana. Plato is remembered as a tragedy, and she was. She's also remembered as a warning, and that is where people get lazy. A warning implies a neat lesson. Dana's life does not fit neat. It fits systems that pay children to perform, then abandon them when the image breaks. It fits an industry that brands a teenager as wholesome, then punishes the adult for needing help. It fits an audience that wants innocence on screen and scandal in the paper. In 2019, Todd Bridges marked what would have been her 55th birthday with a tribute, writing that she had been the one person he could always talk to and that she was free. There is also the quieter legacy, the way her story is used to talk about labor, not just fame. Dana worked as a child. She generated money, marketing, and value for adults who were paid to manage her. When she needed protection, the support systems were thin, optional, and easy to ignore. The bill for that neglect arrived later, with interest. The reason her story keeps pulling people back is simple. Dana never had a normal starting line. She worked before she knew what work meant. She became famous before she knew what privacy was. She was treated as safe, while she was already unraveling. When she finally asked the world to believe she was okay, the world responded with laughter. The last question is not grand. It is practical. If a child becomes a product before she becomes a person, what does growing up even mean after the audience moves on?